The Pursuit of Balance podcast is brought to you by Mistakes Make Memories and is recorded at the Triple M Recording Studio. As Bob Ross once famously said, "We don't have mistakes, only happy accidents." There's something about the serendipity of life that can only be experienced through living each day as they come. Some of the best stories in our lives, a few of our greatest memories, as well as the foundations of the people we are today, come as mistakes in the moment. But as we live on and reflect, we realize each experience is a vital aspect of our lives. With that said, we want to share our message and experience with the world. We hope you enjoy and have something to take away from each episode. There may be viewer discretion advised. Sometimes arousal of emotion may come in, and topics may invade personal biases. Each experience and point of view have something that can be learned from. Freedom is something that needs to be cherished and praised, not feared and have a weariness and anxiousness about it. Expressing one's own thoughts, opinions, and experiences is part of this life's experience. Thank you for joining us here in the Pursuit of Balance podcast. We hope you enjoy listening and join us for more episodes in the future. Thank you.
How many videos have you done?
Thank you. I did one yesterday, and it was a total shit show.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't get the mics to work.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Is this like a series then that I saw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to be the first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
I was
cool.
like-
We're kicking it off.
We're kicking it off.
Fuck yeah.
Pursuit of Balance podcast.
Is it starting?
Starting.
Okay, cool.
I'm with Erin Goodburn.
Hello.
How long have we known each other?
It's
It's a-
4,
It's a while.
8, 7 years?
6th grade, right?
Oh, fuck. My math is wrong. 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. What?
10 years.
10 years? That's crazy.
It is.
Lots of changes.
Yeah. Our brothers, or your stepbrother and my brother, played baseball, and
Yep.
yeah. That was a crazy. The first time I fully met you was in the hallway. You came up to me. You're like, "Are you on my brother's baseball
Oh,
team?"
Shanahan?
Yeah, Shanahan. I was like,
Well, because your dad coached the baseball team.
mm-hmm.
And so, honestly, I might have known them earlier than 6th grade. Because when did he start doing that?
Maybe 4th.
Yeah, low key. Because I knew Landon since 3rd grade.
Oh wow.
So, damn. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right.
We were just talking about mushrooms out there, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've been researching those.
Really?
Yep. Paul Stamets, he's huge mycologist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he got into them the 70s, and basically he has this theory of everything being as one, and mushrooms kind of go into that as the networks that speak to the nature networks and the divine oneness and the divine mother one of nature. And
Interesting.
yeah.
I can definitely see that. Because doesn't it connects a lot of I guess you would say just asleep connections in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain lights up so much on shrooms
It does.
compared to just normal. And we only use 10% of it anyway. So I wonder.
Yeah. So
How?
new neurons are firing, and just new connections are able to be made that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in nature, mycelium is what forms the mushrooms, right? And there are mycelia networks underneath the ground, and they can communicate instantaneously. As soon as one neuron finds a new food source or new nutrients or something, instantly it starts sending cells over there, and it can expand and can absorb that.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything's talking under the ground. All the trees are talking to each other too.
Yeah.
It's just insane. Trees are I guess this would go for mushrooms too, but just if things are around different things, even though there's an element of competition, they all trade nutrients and shit. So am I allowed to cuss on here?
Yeah.
All right,
sure.
cool.
Yeah.
They trade and they help each other. It's really cool.
Yeah. Mushrooms actually have a part in that. I can't remember the name right now, but it's a symbiotic relationship where a mushroom will grow with a tree, and then it'll communicate with that tree or with that plant. And there was this one study where they put mycelium in a pot. There was a constant that didn't have the mycelium. There's like 5 plants, and then there was another one that did. And they put this disease, aphids, I think it was, or something.
Yeah.
And after a while, like all 5 of them started developing this thing where it would like go against the aphids, and it would not allow that disease to come in.
Oh, that's cool. And then it didn't do that in the control?
Yeah, it didn't do that. It just got devoured
Killed
by them.
by aphids. Dang.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because, like, you don't think of, like, mushrooms as having necessarily, like, consciousness to make decisions like that. But somehow, like, if it's a decision or not, the effect is still the same, which is interesting. Like, is it a decision? Or, like, is it, like, what is it if they don't have consciousness, but they can, like, do that for themselves?
They can.
It's interesting. It poses. I've been learning about consciousness this semester.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very interesting concept. Like, the mind-body problem. Like, what is your mind and what is your body? Are they the same? Are they different? Are they, like, how are they connected? Like, are they different entities? Like, what is it? Is it physical? Is it all physical? Is it mental? Is it both? Does everything, like, work for a function? Like, functionalism is, like, input for an output. And there's, like, a bunch of different theories of, like, what has consciousness, what defines what is consciousness, what has the ability to have consciousness, which is the question after you define it. But it's hard to define.
It is. It's not a very clear line. And, yeah, a lot of people do debate that.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's just the awareness, or like being able to separate like yourself from something. Like obviously like you having these thoughts, but like the thoughts aren't you maybe. And
Right.
yeah.
The thoughts aren't you.
The thoughts
and like
aren't
your
you.
emotions necessarily aren't you either. You just have emotions that are fleeting, and
you're conditioned to some of them, and
yeah.
changing that conditioning can open up your world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There is physical stuff, right? Your body's physical, your brain is physical, but then it acknowledges that there's also things that are like intangible happening, so like mental states, which it doesn't solve the mind-body problem at all, but it poses interesting questions about like the relationship between like our physical life on Earth and then like our mental lives, like in our heads. But it's really interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting.
It's thought-provoking for sure.
Yeah, it starts setting those questions, and
it's like, what are we? And like for animals, for instance, like they have consciousness, but like we don't know the extent of it. And like how do we assign consciousness to like certain animals, and how does that lead into empathy, and how does that lead to like us valuing their lives? Does consciousness determine like the value of a life? Does it not? If they can't, if something can't think something through, like does it matter as much? It's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And then it also like for free, like talking about consciousness and free will, it's like if we're conscious, if we do we have free will if we're conscious?
Because there's that life force going through us that's telling us something, right? So
right.
Is
and
it
then
actually your free will?
Right. Yeah. And then if we don't have free will, then how can anyone blame anyone for doing anything, right? Like if I were to go out and like kill someone, and I could claim that I don't have free will because something, it's determinists is the term for people that think we don't have free will. There's like hard determinism, and then there's compatibilism. But yeah, so basically hard determinists would think that you can't blame that person because there's everything that's set to happen is already set to happen because of the things that came before. It's interesting.
Yeah, that is.
But all of these like things kind of relate to each other, like consciousness and opening up new lines of consciousness, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean mushrooms definitely have that consciousness effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awaken something inside of each of us, right? I've been looking into Hermeticism. I don't know if you're spiritual or anything, but
on a path.
The first law of Hermeticism, the natural law, is mentalism. So whatever you perceive in your mind is kind of what you see in this realm. So like if you're having negative thoughts, then you're going to have negative experiences and negative, like it's all tied in together.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes into like almost the exact opposite of what you're just talking about with the what was it called? Determinism. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So can you say that again?
Hermeticism.
Yeah, like what is that? Is that like
It's a ancient occult teaching.
Okay. Which literally is all religion, so anyway.
But its roots are in Greek, but before that it even went back to the Egyptians. And before that it's theorized that it could have been in Atlantis.
Wow.
So yeah.
So it got some history.
It's got some history. And
well, that kind of goes perfectly in today's topic with about perspectives. Like if you wanted to change that perspective, could you change the output of your life?
Sure.
Like how powerful is that in Hermeticism?
Yeah, so with Hermeticism there's also this thing called alchemy, where
I read that book.
You read Alchemy?
Yeah, or The Alchemist.
The Alchemist?
Yes.
Okay, so you know about like the 7 stages?
It wasn't, I don't know, I didn't say that explicitly.
Oh, okay.
The book was about like you go through a journey and like everything's like symbolism and stuff, but it's really cool, and it's about finding a treasure. But
and that treasure is your pure soul,
basically.
Yeah.
It's a good book.
So like through that alchemy, then like that's how you change the inner workings of yourself, and that's how you get in tune with your higher self and your true self. But there's 7 metals, and the first step is like calcination. So you heat up the metals. The first one's lead, and you turn this poison inside of you, into something that can help you, and which the poison would be like your past experiences, traumas, stuff like that. And through meditation and through that deep working, you evolve with each step.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what's the 7th metal?
The 7th metal is, I believe it is gold.
What does that symbolize?
It's pureness and
like nirvana?
Almost nirvana, yeah.
Okay.
Nirvana
I was talking about nirvana last night with my roommates.
Oh yeah. Kurt Cobain.
Nirvana as in you've reincarnated so many times that your soul is like an all-knowing entity, and you've like basically like learned everything you can. Because we were talking about how that fits into religion and like spirituality as a whole, and like how that doesn't necessarily, I mean, I guess you could crunch nirvana and the concept of it into any box you want to fit a religion, but we were talking about how that fits into like astrology and stuff, with like what you need to know in this lifetime. Yeah.
What experiences you need to learn from.
Sorry. I was like working last night and I couldn't stop a dry cough. It's so annoying.
You're still working at the pizza place?
Yeah.
Is it awesome?
No.
Not anymore?
No, I'm going to quit. I actually just applied to another job last night.
Oh, wow.
But.
What is your major again?
My major is English, professional, and writing and rhetoric. I have a minor in environmental studies and sociology.
That's true.
Yeah, I got to start studying for the LSAT this next month.
Oh, whoa.
I know.
LSAT?
Fuck.
Is that?
Law school.
Law school.
Yeah. But in light of this topic, it was interesting because I was looking at my like astrological chart.
Okay.
And like there's like different houses, and like the different houses mean different things. And my 3rd house has like the most of my stuff in it, like all my signs basically. And the 3rd house is like communication, which is interesting because like that's that's writing. Communication is writing, reading, researching, speaking, positive change, like we're maybe going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Even this podcast right now, just like heavy on the communication, like learning that like communication is going to influence like a lot of like what I learn in this life.
Yeah, definitely. But
it is interesting to see like the concept of reincarnation and like why you would reincarnate. Yeah. Language is limiting too, but it's also like expansionary at the same time. Like it's like double-edged sword. Like, yeah, you can only say so much, but you can also say so much. Like words are so powerful. And like it's interesting to see like how you can make your sentences more powerful, and like if you put like the subject really close to the verb, it's gonna automatically be like a more powerful statement. It's just like interesting how you can like move words around like puzzle pieces to get a certain message across, to eliminate some type of misconception, whatever. But
so just moving like a certain word closer to the verb.
A subject
Closer
to the verb.
Closer to the verb.
It kind of like, at least in what I've done a lot when I've been in college is like environmental activism through writing, or like social activism through writing. So if you're trying to create characters, like for instance, we were writing an op-ed on Middletown, Ohio. They have a really bad pollution problem from like their industrial, like basically just industrial base that is Middletown, Ohio. And we were trying to create like a hero villain, or like a victim perpetrator complex in the writing.
Okay.
And it was like these industrial companies, I'm gonna name them out: Fuck You, AK Steel, Suncoke, all those places.
Sunco?
So yeah, but like the Coke plant is there.
Coca-Cola?
No, like the Coke plant for making steel.
Ah.
So it was a couple other companies. Or I guess Cleveland Cliffs just bought AK Steel. But it's basically the largest flat rolled steel mill in North America.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's huge, and that's where it is. And
it pollutes the area around it.
Oh yeah,
just from what the process is to create that, or
well, that's bringing up other things. They have like the same thing in other countries, and it creates like half the amount of emissions. They can do steel in a cleaner way. It's just more expensive, so they choose not to.
Of course.
But yeah, they like had to buy a whole street because benzene leaked into all the houses. There's been like, and one of our community partners, like, I think like 7 people in her family. They've all lived there for like generations. All died of the same type of cancer. Just like crazy stuff. So we were trying to like create like a little, like, the residents are the victims, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're getting taken advantage of by these companies. And so when you're talking about the companies, you move the name or the word steel plant, because you can't call them out for legal reasons or whatever. But you move that close to whatever verb that you're talking about, whatever thing that they're doing in the sentence, and it creates just like a more powerful, impactful sentence to the listener or the reader.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, language is cool. It's cool, and like we definitely could create, I mean, a more complex language. The English language doesn't really make that much sense, like, logically. But I mean, I think it's whales that have the most complex language in the world
through their echolocation.
Yeah, like they can talk to a whale on the other side of the world.
Whoa.
Yeah, whales are crazy.
Yeah, speaking of whales, fucking 235 got beached back in August, right?
Where?
I think off the coast of Australia.
Oh, I may have heard about that. I'm not sure the details, though.
I don't know the details either, but it's pretty scary. It doesn't happen like every year, but it happens
more
sometimes.
Frequently now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking into the magnetosphere and the electromagnetic field of this earth.
Oh, yeah.
And that might come into play with how the whales are navigating through their oceans. Because like at the bottom of the ocean where the crust is, there's like this metallic that kind of like guides them where they're going, right? And that's how they know how to journey across the fucking world.
Right. Get to their one specific breeding ground.
Their breeding ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So what have you like learned about that?
That it could possibly actually be weakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that. Don't know much about it though.
Yeah, in 2000, NASA came out, which I don't know if you agree with NASA 100% all the time. They've been caught in a couple of things over the years, but they said over the past 150 years, it's gone down at least 10%.
Oh, shit.
And then this European Space Agency, so ESA, in 2010, they came out and said that it was down 5% from 2000 to 2010.
Oh, from the original report.
From 2000 to 2010.
Oh,
So in 10 years, 1 decade, it dropped 5%.
half of what it did in 150 years. Damn.
Yeah.
I wonder what impacts that. What affects that?
I think it's like the humans, like obviously the carbon emissions.
Everything.
We can get into this later, but the electromagnetic field kind of moves in like this non-rhythmic pattern. And when compared like in the macro, like we've kind of seen this over time and time again, it happening, the weakening, I should say. Each day, like the strength of the magnetosphere is kind of, you know, in this ebb and flow state. Like some days it's going to be stronger and some days it's going to be weaker. But overall, right now, it's not being able to rejuvenate itself back to its full strength.
Dude, we're fucking it up out there.
Yeah.
We really are.
We are.
In the name of capitalism, too.
In the name of capitalism and the ego.
Yeah.
That's it at the end of the day. Like, we used to be so much more in tune as a society.
Yeah.
When we lived.
We're so estranged.
We are.
We basically created a fake world for ourselves to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And with, like, I don't know. This issue came up in, like, talking about climate change with the theory of, like, ecofeminism, and how we're the people who are making the decisions about how we're going to mitigate climate change, how we're going to stop what we've created. They're coming from like white old men sitting on Capitol Hill. Right. They're not coming from the people that are on the front lines of climate change, which are mostly women, because women work mostly in, like, agricultural fields. Women are, like, very, like, it's like, I don't know the exact statistic, but they're much more at risk for climate change, like, fatality than men. And that comes down to, like, the patriarchy and, like, the assigned gender roles and stuff, like women that are assigned whatever. But it's interesting, like, if we listen to them, if we listen to the people that were actually, like, knew what was going on, like, listen to the people that, like, had to deal with the effects every day, were in the most threatened position, we would have the most innovative ideas.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't necessarily help capitalism, it doesn't help economic growth, it actually helps us as a society, it's deemed like we're not doing that. We're not going to give that thought.
Right.
Because
it doesn't make them money. But, like, there's also this division that has been created by a facade. And I'm generalizing here, but people, like, can't see a purpose in life without capitalism. And so, like, moving past this division that has been created by this society and those who hold the power, in quotations, like, moving past this would be, like, almost the opposite of capitalism. You're going to be losing
socialism. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
you're helping everyone.
You're helping everyone, and that's kind of...
Everyone's a free rider. That's what capitalism hates.
Yeah.
Free riding. But everyone's a free rider. I mean, if you make something that... I don't know.
We're not ready for that yet.
No, we got to take baby steps before we can get there.
Yeah.
One can dream, though.
Yeah, but the other impact that the electromagnetic field is getting waned on is the sun. Like, I don't know how much you know about the sun's impacts, but there's this thing called solar radiation. There's solar storms, and there's emissions that come from these giant balls that, like, the surface of the sun is emitting, coronal holes, which push these particles out, and the EMF field of the earth is supposed to be able to, like, reflect those and not let those in, which...
That's the ozone, right?
No, the electromagnetic field.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, which is, like, a mile above the earth, I think.
Oh, okay.
So it creates geomagnetism of the core, and...
Because it's metal.
It's metal, but it's also liquid on the inside. There's, like, 4 things that have to happen. But with the sun, eventually, like, it's just beating down on the earth, right? And then the earth is getting weaker with its field, and so maybe it can't resist those emissions as much, or
solar storms,
something else.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And both of those together, the carbon emissions and the sun, at the same time, it's like we're trying to ramp up the process for some reason.
Yeah. Somehow the end of the world always feels really, really close.
Yeah.
I don't think it is, though. But it's interesting, too, how, like, society, like, the fake world that we've built, like, distracts people from that. It kind of, like, beats people down, and so they're kind of thinking about surviving, not necessarily, like, they don't have time to think about that shit. They don't have time to research that shit. And also they, like, a lot of sources, like, I mean, I get it through, like, University of Cincinnati. I get my login and shit for all these sources. But if you didn't have that, like, so much gatekeeping with the information of, like, studies and shit, like, peer-reviewed stuff. You can't access that if you're just, like, any person.
Yeah, like, they charge subscriptions on some websites, like $50 a month to view these scholar articles that will give you the true science. And
But you gotta pay.
You have to pay.
So if you can't pay, see ya.
Yeah.
Stay ignorant about this topic that you want to learn about.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I haven't learned much about the topic of
that.
censorship. I heard a lot about it on Twitter regarding, like, what people can say on Twitter and what people can't say on Twitter. But again, that's a private company, so it's not, free speech doesn't really apply there. You're in a private business.
You don't have to abide by the First Amendment?
No, they can tell you that you can't say that, and they can kick you out of the store. Or of the, like, if I went into a fucking Dick's right now and I started, like, yelling like things that people would say on Twitter, like, they would kick me out, and that's valid. Like, I'm not allowed to just, like, say that stuff. It's a private business. But, like, censorship on things that are public, I haven't. It's
a scary rabbit hole. Because, like, if you start canceling people and you start silencing them, then you don't get to hear the perspective. And, like, sometimes you need those perspectives in order to create the balance and to see where the line is and to create that line. But
yeah, everyone has a different perspective, that's for sure.
Yeah. And hate speech, I mean, hate speech is terrible, but you can't stop it, can you? Like,
no, you can't.
You can't.
But I mean, you can't stop it. But I will say that you can create a climate, you can create an environment that's accepting of it or not accepting of it. Like, you can't stop hate speech, but you can start, like, bullying the fuck out of people that are bullying other people. Like, you can start, like, socially shaming those people that are, like, spewing hate. You can do that. But right now I feel like we're in a different climate that you don't necessarily get socially shamed if you do that all the time, depending on where you are.
Right.
And it's, like, a lot more acceptable now to, like, say things or do things or think things. Like, some, like, early 2000s, maybe, like, 2000, I don't know. I'm going to pick a year. 2008.
Okay.
No, not 2008. We'll do 2007.
2007?
In
okay.
2007, I feel like things that people say now would not be acceptable in 2007. Certain things.
As in, like
hate speech.
Oh, hate speech.
Hate speech, particularly.
Okay.
Because, like, hate speech has gone up, like, insane since, like, 2016.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Just because of the access to social media and that, or?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think leadership played a big role.
Yeah, when you
social media.
When you have one of your biggest influencers in the American's eye, the president just saying these things because he wants to, and it's disrespectful. Yeah, no one's really stopping him.
Yeah.
It probably enforces and enhances other people to do the same.
It's like, oh, he's doing it.
Yeah,
I can. He doesn't like those people either. Neither do I, and he's the fucking president. Like, it just, and it goes into, like, the division aspect too. I mean, that's what hate speech does, divides people. And like we said with, like, the climate change, that's the opposite that we need right now. Yeah. Like, we need to be unified, like, the most, but we're not. We're like on the opposite side.
Yeah. With the climate change and, like, the environmental things that happen on this earth, do you think like the mental health could be from all the disasters that we've done to the earth? So like the earth is giving back out the energy, and it's almost going into the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And then it's sickening our own minds and our own way that we feel because we have that disconnection.
Yeah, I think definitely.
I could see it.
I think you could look at it more as like, instead of the earth giving out negative energy, you could look at it as we're draining all the positive energy from the earth.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think the earth inherently has any negative energy. Yeah. I think that people do, and that, which is interesting because I feel like people are the earth or whatever. How are we connected to that divine one or whatever? That's an interesting caveat as well. But yeah, I think that we're clear cutting forests, we're overfishing our seas, we're polluting our waterways, we're agricultural runoff, we're everything, we're just fucking
putting
everything
plastics
up.
in the ocean.
Yeah, we're the ones
plastics
putting
in
the
the
negative
earth.
energy there. We're draining
We are.
the goodness and the life and the divineness like of the earth. Because like the earth hasn't done it. The earth, and the funny thing about it is like the earth can withstand volcanic ash asphyxiating everything, every life form on earth. The earth can withstand having an ice age that like just everything is covered. Like the earth can withstand like all of this shit, and we're over here, we think that we're like these like big mighty smart individuals, the only thing with consciousness, and it's just such a small perspective.
It is. It's that ego.
It is the ego.
The ego. I don't know if I said it or not, but the big ego with a capital E, that's like the life force that is inside of each of us. And that's what keeps us going. That's why I can't hold my breath and die right now, because that life force of the ego, the big ego, is through me. But then through the small ego, which creates this attachment to the material things, to the thoughts that we have, and to conditioning that we've been given through our experiences, that's what creates that negative that is almost a pathological disease, which Eckhart Tolle goes into in this book here.
What book is that?
A New Earth.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's it about?
Creating this new earth for, each of us, but also like inside your mind, and having that new perspective and that new awakening almost.
That's cool.
It is.
Is that the book that talks about the first thing you were talking about that starts with an H?
Hermeticism?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, different.
No, it doesn't. It has some hermetic teachings, but it also has like Jesus teachings. Because Jesus is bigger than himself. He's seen as like this great figure, but he was human at the end of the day, and each of us can believe that he could have gotten these through, like, because he's just like all of us, and he has that fire going through him, that so he got all the special powers that he did through the practices and the meditations and the spiritual alignment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It is, but I'd love to give you an excerpt from this book.
Yeah.
About the pathological ego.
Yeah.
The ego itself is pathological, no matter what form it takes. When we look at the ancient Greek root of the word pathological, we discover just how appropriate that term is when applied to the ego. Although the word is normally used to describe a condition of disease, it is derived from pathos, which means suffering. This is, of course, exactly what the Buddha already discovered 2,600 years ago as a characteristics of the human conditioning. A person in the grip of the ego, however, does not recognize suffering as suffering, but will look upon it as only an appropriate response to any given situation. And its blindness is incapable of seeing the suffering it inflicts on itself and others. Unhappiness is an ego-created mental, emotional disease that has reached epidemic proportions.
That is interesting. So they said, which is interesting that they said patho means like hurt, suffering.
Oh, yeah, which means suffering. Pathos.
That's super interesting. Patho or suffering or disease. Which I'm trying to think of how that relates, like, because pathos is emotion in like English literature. You use pathos or inflicting emotion. That's interesting.
That is.
So that's interesting also because they're saying that the ego is inherently pathological.
Yeah.
And if you don't recognize your ego, you will continually be in a state of suffering.
Yeah, you'll keep feeding it, and you'll keep feeding it, and you'll keep feeding it, and then it's like a dependency, and it's part of you, and you identify so much with it.
So what do you think recognizing it does then, if you can't get rid of it?
Once the awareness is in, then you become aware when it is active and when you are feeding it, instead of like not knowing that you're feeding it. So if you subconsciously feed the ego, then you're going to keep feeling that suffering, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're, like you said earlier, if you're working from your past traumas or whatever, that's your trauma response. Like that's what they said in the excerpt you've just read. Like that's what you're going to work from what you know, right? So to be able to be aware of that and kind of change that purposefully and consciously,
it's huge.
Is interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
And it happens when we're kids. Like we start having these attachments through these material objects that our parents give us, and it goes along with capitalism, but it goes along with just a lot of stuff as well. And
yeah,
it's been around for thousands of years now, but like he said in the excerpt, the Buddha 2,600 years ago realized this.
right.
Like,
I want to learn more about Buddhism. It's very interesting.
It is. I was meditating before you got here.
Yeah. How do you meditate?
Depends. So beyond the house, I cleared out a little space in the forest.
Really?
Yeah. It's got like a little clearing so I can have like the sun beating down, and then like the trees over top for some shade. There's a river off to my left.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you just sit there?
I'll just sit there and become grounded and just allow my thoughts
Groundwork, literally. It's important.
It is. Just let the thoughts come and let the thoughts go. Don't become attached to them. Don't let them hurt you, or just go back to that inner light and that inner feeling inside of you and feel that presence.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
I have a hard time meditating. I can't like just sit and like let thoughts like flow through me like that. I like meditate by journaling.
Oh yeah.
I can't just like, I can just sit there, but it's harder for me to do that than to just write it down.
Just sitting still is difficult, or
just sitting still and just trying to be quiet in my mind. Like I think I've put an emphasis on like the peaceful quiet when that's not necessarily what meditating is. It is what you just described it as like free flowing and fleeting thoughts and emotions. Kind of like letting it run through you like the water in the river you're sitting next to.
Yeah.
But so I kind of have to do that by journaling, which I've only started doing like for the last year.
Yeah, me too. I like journaling too.
Yeah.
It's good because then you can go back and see it as well.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I used to have these thoughts, but look at me now, and
right.
just having that down is.
And like to go back and maybe once you've recognized that ego or a certain lens that you're working through, to go back after you've uncovered that, and like you can see like the thought process with that ego or the thought process with that lens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a type of meditation now, journalism.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, are you gonna like keep trying to do like the?
I don't know. I feel like my life's been just like freaking insane recently. Just like I've been busy and like I've had no time to just like sit and just like zen. Yeah. Like fully zen without like substances. That sounded bad. I mean, without weed.
Without weed.
Without weed, not substances, weed. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of just journal. I journal like right before I go to bed.
Okay.
Just like something slight, something little,
Yeah.
nonchalant. But I'm bad at like making time for it for sure.
Yeah.
But I do feel good after. It's like going to the gym. Like you're always gonna feel good after you make time for that.
Right.
But
Yeah. I've been taking cold showers.
really, oh yeah, that activates your nervous system too. I've been learning about the nervous system.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like how like breathing when you meditate, how
Yep.
that's like so important.
Yeah, it's massive.
And even focusing on your breathing is like a form of meditation. So like that's something that I do. Like in for 4, out for 8. And like if you do that, if you breathe if you breathe out for longer than you breathe in, you're telling your system, your nervous system physically, because it doesn't respond to your thoughts, right? It responds to your behavior. Okay. So you can, when you're in a survival situation and you're fearing for your life, you can never breathe out for longer than you breathe in. So if you physically make yourself do that and you calm yourself down by that, it calms you down because you're telling your body behaviorally that you are okay, that you're in a safe space. And like there's like the vagus nerve, which I don't.
It's in your neck somewhere.
It's in the back.
Almost like the brainstem.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
It's somewhere back there. I don't know, but if you breathe in from your chest, your diaphragm like presses on it, which presses on something else, which activates your vagus nerve, which gets you out of your amygdala, which is like your amygdala is like your flight, fight, fawn, freeze. Like that is your like survival instincts. It's your amygdala. So if you activate your vagus nerve by breathing, you can get out of that state, and then that opens up a new door for you to operate from a different origin.
Wow.
Right? Like you're taking yourself out of like that habitual, instinctual thing.
Yeah.
And you're putting yourself straight into your consciousness.
Because you can't be in 2 states at one time.
Right. So that's been interesting. You can activate your nervous system like that.
That is crazy.
With the cold showers, that does it too.
It does.
My therapist told me that sometimes, like once a day or something, I should just look in the mirror and I should just shake uncontrollably. Shake your body. Just like go crazy with your body, and like just like totally like just go crazy for a minute or two, and it like reactivates your nervous system too. Because regulating your nervous system is like really freaking important for you.
Yeah.
As a person, but going into that mental like well-being
And also, disease-wise, sickness-wise.
Yeah.
Having it not stressed out, not so tense and
not so estranged maybe too from the natural stuff.
General.
Bro, fuck the plastics. Why are we using plastics? There's so many better why? Because it's convenient and it's
because it
easy.
Saves money.
Yeah, it's convenient, it's easy, and it saves money. And it feels it's so interesting how like plastics are like a symptom of like the system that we're working under.
Yeah.
And like that's been a really big realization for me the past like 3 years, 2.5 years. It has been like this like awakening to the systems that we're all complicit under, and we all just accept as truth, and like we just like take it from face value, and we just kind of like do it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean the plastic is fueled by like greed, which is like again with the capitalism, it's somehow relates to white supremacy, patriarchy. Like it's crazy how like the caste system, like all these things are fueled by like that. So materialism, whatever.
Just small
that's
things.
not necessarily a system, but
yeah,
like we know there's better options. We know that there's better ways to create concrete. We could create concrete out of hemp.
Yeah.
We could create concrete out of plastic, and that would last longer than the concrete that we're putting down. And
oh my gosh,
like,
yeah, and it's lighter. It's easier to build with.
Permeable with rain. Concrete poses a lot of problems. Lasts longer.
Expands the market of growing hemp plants.
Yeah. Insane. And like
fire resistant.
Yeah, less upkeep. We wouldn't have as much construction.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. honestly
Cheaper.
probably fucking cheaper, because you don't have to go through, I mean, it's a plant, it's ever growing, like you can grow that shit. It's not like you have to keep making that shit, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of better ways to do that, but it's like, if you didn't, like, what would all the construction workers do if, like, we didn't need them because we used, like, better products? We'd have to give them another job, probably to do something else, hopefully to advance society, but like no one's gonna make that change right now.
Yeah,
because that's
especially the way that the construction market is. Like,
yeah,
they made so much money.
Yeah.
But it all starts with questioning, and that's really what got me on the path that I am now, and the wanting of balance in the world, in my life, in the people I love's life, and every aspect of living is balance. And having questions and asking the right questions to not only yourself but to the environment that's going on around you is going to bring that awareness, and to bring other people's, like, collective, like, having the same questions and looking for the answer.
Wanting the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to create change. It's going to create a whole bunch of ripple effects just by asking these questions
and being unsatisfied with the answers that you get, honestly.
There you go.
And that's why, like, when people say, like, no because no, it's like, why, dude? Like, I can question you. Like, I'm not questioning your character. I'm questioning your decision. Like, I'm questioning why. Like, that's a valid thing. Like, you should be able to question all authority.
You should.
I mean, that's why we have a democracy, right? It's for the people, of the people, by the people.
Sure.
Like, we can question the people that are leading us. Like, that's valid. We can question our parents. Like, we should be able to question. We should be able to be questioned.
Yeah.
Because if you're being questioned and you don't have a good answer for what you think, then maybe you need to rethink.
You need to ask yourself that question and learn the real answer and the truth.
Yeah.
And grow from being asked that.
Yeah, curiosity. They say curiosity kills the cat, but curiosity is fucking amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You can learn so much.
Mm-hmm.
The possibilities are endless. But backtrack just a few sentences that you said there. The just like the government and the representation of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a woman, okay,
mm-hmm.
you're not being represented the way that you want to right now.
No.
And the whole reason that we went to war with Britain was because of taxation without representation.
Correct.
Like, how do we implement a change here in that aspect? Because, like, civil wars, or I don't want a civil war.
Right.
Like, that's the last thing I want.
Yeah. I will play devil's advocate and say that the Civil War was very helpful last time we had that. I mean, it was obviously horrible that we had to have that, but it was very revolutionary.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Hell yeah. Like, fuck yeah. We needed a Civil War.
We did.
And I don't know that we need a Civil War right now, but it's interesting that you say as a woman, because it all comes down to, like, people. I was at an environmental justice symposium a couple weeks ago, and our keynote speaker, she was a doctor at University of Cincinnati, but she studied public administration, and specifically like basically indentured servants, like worker in America, and she was like, the root of everything is one person valuing someone's life over another. That's the root of all evil. Like, so men, like, in our society right now, with the systems that we operate under, this is not to place guilt on any person, but we should be able to talk. Yeah, we should be able to talk about this stuff. Men's lives
easier.
They're at a higher. They're more valued. They're more valued in our society. I mean, if you think about abortion, the choice is not valued. The bodily autonomy is not there. Like, you can say in cases of rape or incest, but then you're not saying that a woman's choice matters. Like, I don't want to have a baby because I don't want to have a baby.
Yeah.
Like, that should be valid as it is, because it's my body and, like, it's my choice. But I mean, that's just a good example of like men and women, and then you think about like white people and then like people of color and like minorities in general. Like white people's in America, at least I can speak to my experience, white people's lives have been proven time and time again to be valued over people of color's lives. And so when you're talking about the positive change that we need to reconcile these like wrongs, it's kind of like fuck, right? Because all of this is stemming from the caste system that we have. It's stemming from
the ripple down effect.
Yeah, and these are not systems that any one person governs. They're systems that we all uphold through actions that we do every single day, through comments we make every single day, through thought processes and biases that we've been conditioned and we've learned in the environment, because we grew up in this type of environment. So, I mean, you have to start valuing these people, right? You have to start valuing women. You have to start valuing every person and their opinions, because one is not better than the other inherently. Yeah. Which is kind of what the basis that we're going off right now with all of these divisionary like subcategories and shit. Like one person is not inherently smarter or has more creative or innovative ideas just because of one aspect of themselves. So I think you get more representation up there. You get more women, you get more people of color in places where they can represent people like them. Like right now we have pretty much like white men representation, like majority. Yeah.
Percentage wise, it's
skewed. Yeah, it's crazy. So, and that's obviously not helpful, because then you're having those people who really are so out of touch with everyone else's problems and everyone else's lives that they're making decisions that are counterproductive to everyone else except them. Yeah. And people that fit their demographic. Right. Which then just strengthens the systems. So it's like it's not
allowing those questions to come into place and to embark that change.
Yeah, and the people in power are staying in power by making decisions that keep them in power, and then it's just a cycle. Like it's hard to break unless you get some other people up there making some decisions. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely scary to see like stuff that's happened over the past couple years relating to women's rights and like I don't know, in intersectionality. Have you heard that term? Oh, I love this concept. Intersectionality. Yes. So it's basically the concept. It was created by I know this. Kimberly Crenshaw. Okay. She was a civil rights advocate, and she's she kind of created like critical race theory. That's been super controversial, but intersectionality is basically the idea that there's like this wheel, right? And we're all being oppressed or lifted up or deemed a certain way in various aspects. So like, right, I'm a woman, but I'm also white. I'm also middle class. I'm also femme presenting. I'm cisgender. I don't know. There's just a ton of shit. Like I'm not necessarily a Christian now, but like I was raised Catholic. So like I, as a unique person, create a unique set of like we'll just take race and gender. I'm a woman, so I'm oppressed by the patriarchy, but I'm also white, so I'm lifted up by white supremacism. So that puts me in a unique spot. Okay. And then you add in the fact that I'm Christian or Catholic by how I was raised, so that adds something. And then you put that I'm a female and I'm female presenting, so I'm air quotes around this, like what you would call like socially just like the norm. Like I am socially like the normal for like what people are thinking. Okay. And for like black women, you put that they're a woman and that they're black, they're oppressed. Like black women are like the most oppressed group. Like they're the most like they are at risk the most for like a lot of things.
Misinformation, not being represented, and yeah, definitely. A lot.
Yeah, and so intersectionality is basically the idea that like everyone's so unique and every part of you like adds something different. So you're not just defined by your whiteness, or you're not just defined by your gender, or you're not just defined by your last name. You're defined by everything in it. It's so unique. It's an interesting concept. And it brings light to like to recognizing the truth behind like things that we do, right? So recognizing why someone might not get a job, or recognizing why someone might be in a certain situation. It gives you a different perspective. It lends a hand to recognizing the individuality of everyone.
I think that is very wise. And almost the basic roots of why we have the separation. It's almost that distortion and division that has ruled over our lives for maybe, 2,000 years, probably even longer. Like, this is where people began to think they're more valued than others.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, with the dumbass gender roles, right? Like, certain boys are brought up to think that their purpose is to provide and serve and protect, to please and whatever, and also to be strong. And like the definition that society has like ascribed to strong is impermeable. So like your emotions, we shouldn't see them. You shouldn't be crying. You shouldn't be upset. Why are you showing like immense happiness, like for men specifically? I mean, obviously it's like literally the opposite for women. Like the stereotype is that we're so emotional, whatever.
Right.
But
there could almost be a balance between that. So like men who don't have their mother's impact in their life, they're gonna naturally have that discrepancy against women, right? And then we see this disconnect between like the two genders. I can't put it into words, like what I'm trying to say here, but it'll come to me.
Okay.
So.
But yeah, I mean, you make resources taboo on top of that, and you make like the whole mental health conversation taboo, and it's like, okay, well, you're putting me into a box, right? Like you're putting men into a box. Why are you doing that? And then you're telling them, you're locking the box basically with like you're gatekeeping all of these like resources. You're saying that like men shouldn't cry. Like why do you need therapy? Like what do you mean? Like what do you mean? Like everyone needs therapy, low-key. Like therapy plug for everyone. But like yeah, it's putting people into boxes that like kills them. Like, and then yeah, just the gender roles too. It fucks everyone over. Like why do we even need gender roles? Like what if I want to be in a relationship where like I am like the breadwinner and like I want my partner to like do something else, or my partner wants to do something else, rather, not I want my partner, but like whatever my partner wants to do, like they'll do that, like, and fuck a gender role, and like fuck like getting help being something that's like raising eyebrows, or like something that's behind closed doors, like, and that goes into like the overall putting people in boxes, and like how that works for every group of people. Like every group of people is put into a box, and that box has expectations. Interesting. In like this book, Caste, this is by Isabel Wilkerson. It's like Oprah's Book Club 2020. This is all about boxes, particularly the like caste system based on race in America. But it just does a disservice to everyone. It does a disservice to society as a whole, and what it does feed into are the systems that we're operating under, the systems that are making the boxes. So it compares the caste system of India to the caste system of Nazi Germany and the Third Reich, and the caste system in America. And obviously America is not usually described as a caste system, but when it's compared through these 12 pillars that Wilkerson describes in the book, you can really see the similarities. And one thing that like blew my mind in it was that like it's this quote. I'll find it, but if I can't find it, I can say it in my head. But it states that Hitler like marveled at the American knack for maintaining an air of robust innocence in the wake of mass death.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, it's fucking insane. Like,
Yeah.
The Nazis and Hitler took inspiration from Southern American law to implement in their purification process.
Shit.
And like they had a more lenient for the Nuremberg laws. They had more lenient laws that describe what a Jew is than what we had as what a like black person is.
Oh.
Okay, ours was 1 drop of African American blood, and theirs was like, I don't know, like something with the descent of the people, but it's just fucking insane.
Seriously.
And like all of these boxes and like they're not helping anyone. And back in the that's not what I'm looking for.
It's like a conceptualization of trying to understand yourself when really you're so much more than what we are physically. And I think each of us has the duality of gender. So like, even though I'm a male, I'm still gonna have these female sides.
Yeah.
And when I realize that and I accept that as truth, then I can empathize with that because you are me essentially. Like,
yeah.
We are one.
Yeah.
We are both similar.
The same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because we're made of the same shit, of the same divine materials, you'd say. And putting expectations on people to do certain things is just like
creating more suffering than it is helping.
Right, like let's just do what we want and like all like follow what we care about and have the opportunity to do that. And we would be so like our society would be fucking sick. I mean, I'm sure we'd still have like problems because like we're human, but
following their passions.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
And it was all okay, and like there was no societal expectations for anyone.
Yeah.
But I mean, you said something about individuality earlier. And like how we were talking about men like in suicide rate, how like it was, I don't know what you said, something about how that relates to individuality. I don't know.
Like the disconnectedness between us?
Yeah, the disconnection. That literally is capitalism. Capitalism is individuality. Capitalism, that's the point of it, is that you are a person and you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps by yourself. You're self-made and you are going to go get success by yourself. And you're in competition with every person around you. Like me and you are competitors right now. We're not on the same team. Even though we are on the same team.
We are.
It's a facade.
It is.
It's totally a facade that helps certain people and doesn't help others. So,
yeah.
Fuck capitalism.
I think, there could be balance. If we balanced it, then it's not fuck capitalism, but it's out of balance. And to create that balance would take immense amounts of work. And as a whole, we're not ready for that yet. Eventually.
I feel like we're kind of like moving backwards a little bit.
It does. A little bit, especially with AI. Like, we're trying to reconnect with what we come from.
Right.
And we're creating this new thing that isn't a part of us, but it's a part of us because we have that cell phone. Because we're constantly watching television, getting entertained by our cell phones, TV, anything.
Would you say that cell phones are an extension of you and like your consciousness?
Maybe not consciousness, but it's an extension of you.
Why not your consciousness?
I mean, I guess it could be your consciousness because it does learn, like, your habits.
And, like, you have memories on that phone.
You do?
Like, if you, this one example was an old man with dementia. He writes everything down in his notebook. Everything. As soon as he thinks it, he writes it down so that he knows that it's there, right? His consciousness is that notebook, arguably. His thoughts, everything are in that notebook. And like he looks to his notebook as his brain.
Wow.
His brain transfers everything to the notebook, and the notebook's an extension of his consciousness and his self. And that's obviously not confined to paper and pencil. Like that could be translated to an iPhone or whatever. I mean, they're doing fucking chips in people now.
Yeah.
But like an extension of it. Like I wouldn't remember a lot of the stuff if I didn't have my phone. So
Yeah,
we're already merging. We're already
Holy
merging with AI shit.
Yeah, we are. The next step is scary, and I hope it doesn't really come into fruition, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know though. I mean, people are. That's like aside from mass weapons of destruction, that's like a biggest threat. Honestly, would be like cybersecurity, and like. I don't know if I'm like concerned as much about like robots as I am like people being able to manipulate technology to do things. There was this thing about weak AI and strong AI. And there was so weak AI is AI that can imitate humans, it can imitate consciousness, it can imitate thoughts, but it's not imitating thoughts. I mean, it isn't creating thoughts, it's just imitating thoughts. That's weak AI. And there's this theory that like you can have a strong AI that creates thoughts and creates things instead of imitates them. And there hasn't really been a good argument for strong AI. There's been some arguments against it, saying that AI basically, it's so systematic that like if you put 10 in there, it's taking 10 as like a symbol. It's not taking 10 as like you have 10 things. So like the difference between us and AI is that we have experiences and AI is imitating like an input for an output. Like it's so systematic, there's no meaning, and that's like the hard problem of that relates to the hard problem of consciousness of why do we have experience? What does experience do for our consciousness? Like why do we even need experience and stuff? And that's a hopeful distinction between us and AI is that AI can't do that.
It can't experience.
It can't experience. It can learn through other like symbols, but it can't experience.
Wow.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, for sure. In the hallway, you saw the hallway? That's all like the stuff that's going in my van.
Oh yeah. Are you?
I showed you pictures of that.
Yeah. When are you planning on doing that?
Well, it's been a whole process. I started it back in the end of July, like this first week of August, and it's taken a lot more work. Like just ripping, like gutting the entire van was a huge pain.
Are you like furnishing it?
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, I put up walls, insulation.
Dang.
I did the floors.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a pain.
And because you got to be crouched the whole time.
Yeah, you can't stand all the way up.
Have you done it all by yourself? Pretty much.
A lot of it, yeah. Nick helps me when he can, but.
And you're just gonna go like you're just gonna go.
I'm just gonna go.
Fire.
Yeah.
That's fucking sick.
It is. I'm so excited, but there's also preparation steps mentally, and like obviously I'm gonna need some money for that.
Right. You can't just.
Yeah. You can't just get up and leave.
Peace. Yeah. So you're going by yourself?
Yeah, I'm going by myself, but I think I'm gonna fly some people out.
Okay.
To like,
wherever you are.
Let them see the West too, like experience too.
Yeah.
And they'll have somewhere to stay.
Right.
And I'll also be able to experience them around me.
Right.
While I'm also going through this.
How long are you like planning on doing it? Going on your trip?
I think I'm leaving in March and coming back in May.
Oh wait, so 2 months? March, April, May.
Yeah.
End of May?
3
months.
So yeah, March, April, May. So like 2.5, 3.
Damn.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a long time.
It is. Hopefully I can see everything I want to see. But
hell yeah.
I don't think I'll be able to see it.
Are you going to go East Coast tour at all or just West?
I think just West for now.
Yeah.
My brother lives in New York City.
Oh.
So if I wanted to,
you could.
I could go out there and visit with him, which I may do like end of February, just for like a week.
Yeah.
But that'd be a huge switch up going from the East Coast, New York City life.
Right.
A couple weeks
van life.
Then going to van life, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's so cool, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's ballsy.
Are you trying to travel anywhere?
Yeah, actually, my roommate Marissa, she's going to Switzerland in the spring for study abroad.
Whoa.
So her visa doesn't end till July, like end of July. So I'm gonna go out there after I take my LSATs as like a little congratulations to myself present, and I'm gonna go Switzerland for like a week and probably going to travel out there. I took like this intercultural development or intercultural competency test.
Okay.
And it's like you get your score and it's like a scale, and there's like I think it starts with polarization, minimization, and then acceptance. There might be one before polarization, but it's polarization, minimization, and acceptance, and you're trying to get to acceptance. Right. I'm at polarization right now.
Nice.
So, which like a lot of people overestimate how culturally competent they are, and I did too. And I'm not that culturally competent. When you're at polarization, you do like tend to like see the divisions. You recognize differences, which is good, but you do tend to see the divisions. And like for me, mine's like I'm extremely critical of like my own culture and like America. So that's where that.
So you think seeing a new culture across the seas is gonna open up your perspective? And
yeah, I think
variety?
My tendency is just to criticize like where we are, and I don't necessarily have any perspective to like compare the criticism to. So a lot of the times I think that makes my opinions unbalanced and skewed and biased towards criticizing America. I don't know.
I think it's good to criticize, though. I think
it
you need
is.
that. Like,
it is.
You don't get complacent that way, and you don't go into the system and the questioning. Back to the whole questioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely good to criticize, but
is. Once the criticism starts harming you
and being overbearing, like back with the balance idea, if you're just criticizing all the time, you're going to be in a constant state of like fuck.
Yeah.
Not really happy. Not very optimistic. Yeah. But if you balance that with, I don't like this about my culture, but I appreciate this. It's like, okay, well, that's a valid concern. That's a valid dislike, but there's also a valid like. Like you can like something that goes with something that you don't necessarily like.
Definitely. I found it hard to find that goodness sometimes.
Yeah.
Like especially when I'm searching for the truth and I'm seeing like all the times that the truth has been covered up by like half truths. Yeah. Where like one side of the perspective is told. Yep. It's just hard to find. It's hard to find good in it sometimes, but you gotta dig and you gotta find it.
Yeah. It's also kind of confusing too, because truth is like, in one way it's objective, and in one way it's super subjective. Mm-hmm. So like finding the middle ground between what you're gonna take as a fact, and then analyzing what a fact is.
Right. I can see that.
It's interesting,
especially when we're talking about recycling. Oh my God. Okay. To call plastics recyclable is hearsay. Yeah. It's bullshit. Like 9.5% was the highest recycle rate ever in America for plastics. Mm-hmm. That was in 2014. And that entire year, we exported over 3 million tons to different countries.
Of plastic?
Of plastic.
Plastics can kill us. They're going to kill us.
Did you hear about the study in Netherlands where they took the blood samples?
And the only person that didn't have it was like a deceased soldier before a certain war.
Whoa, I didn't hear about that one.
Oh, yeah. That was just probably along the same lines, though.
Yeah, maybe. The NF22 study, so like 22 people got their blood drawn.
Okay.
17 of those 22 came out with microplastics in their blood.
Yeah.
And is that the same study as the one that you're speaking about?
I don't know if it's the exact same one, but it's the same premise.
Essentially, they found no trace of them in a dead soldier from...
And that was the only specimen, the only like data point that they took. And they... Oh, fuck.
Joe was telling me yesterday that they also found it in a woman's placenta.
Yeah, it's going into your babies.
It's going into your babies and like scary.
And like we're getting it through like they're feeding microplastics to our livestock, and we're ingesting the livestock. So anything that they eat is in us. It's like, how did they not see this coming? Like we know fucking biology. Like we know ecology and how like trophic systems work and how like magnification works within like for certain like things, and it magnifies as you get higher up the food chain. And we're the highest in the food chain, so we fucking ourselves.
We are.
Which is like kind of the whole premise of everything, right? We're just fucking ourselves with this made up like
facade.
Yeah, this society that we've made.
Yeah, definitely. And where's the balance with plastics? Okay, like, sure, I understand that some things do need to be made of it, maybe, because it is pretty good at not contaminating, I believe, but there's the substances that are made of those, like the PETs, and there's like a FPAT or something. Those are the ones that generally have the most microplastics that do pollute water, human blood, and more. But I don't know. I can't find the balance in the usage of them. But
I think. Do you think it's because it's just so unnatural?
Plastics themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the natural balance would be none.
Right.
So,
okay.
And we're already like, and because they don't fucking go away. They're basically forever. Like not forever, but like they're long ass time are forever. The balance is already fucked, and then we're making more. It's like, yeah, they're gonna permeate everything, every organism, every like ecosystem, every habitat, everything.
So to completely cut it out of our life now, though, is basically impossible.
Yeah, I mean the manufacturing of it to stop that isn't impossible, but if you're going up against like
oil,
everything that needs it with air quotes, because like there are alternatives, they're just more fucking expensive.
Yeah,
there are alternatives, it's just harder to make. Like
cardboard, like we see a lot of cardboard juice boxes and cardboard containers now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like not even boxes, but stuff that you can hold liquid in.
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. But that also poses a question of the chemicals that they use on the cardboard, like the Teflon shit. Have you heard of that? Have you seen the movie Dark Waters?
No, I haven't.
I haven't actually watched it. I watched a documentary on YouTube that was about the real story. But basically, it was a lawyer from Cincinnati, and it was DuPont. It was a DuPont case. They were creating Teflon, which that was the study. It was Teflon.
Oh, the one that
Teflon
found in one.
Yes, and it was before it was created, and now every person has shit like Teflon in it. And Teflon's now like you can't produce Teflon, but if you just tweak one thing about it, it basically creates the same component. And because substances in America are innocent until proven guilty, and it takes a lot to prove them guilty, by the time you prove them guilty, the impact's gone. The impact's done. Yeah. Everyone has it. So like it was on like the inside of pizza boxes, those juice boxes that you're talking about. It's the chemical, like the coating that like pans, nonstick pans, is on those. Like, so we're ingesting this every day. So it's like yes, it's kind of like they're both so bad. Like the balance, I guess, would be the balance between the two evils, because
you almost have to ingest it at that point.
Something.
You have to find
something, whether it's plastic, whether it's Teflon, whether it's I don't know, something else. Like, yeah, low key in the world that we've created, you can't, unless you literally go off the grid. There's no way for you to not. I mean, the fruits that we are coated in wax sometimes. Yep, like the things that they spray on our food, like the pesticides and all that shit.
The natural, they're unorganic fertilizers that they use to give more life to the soil so that our plants can grow.
Which is funny because it kills the soil.
It kills the soil, and in the Midwest, we had one of the richest soils, and we have absolutely fucked it.
Dude, yeah. There is no nutrients in our soils now. But also because they went away from like sustainable agriculture and they just started mass fucking producing shit. And over half of that shit goes to livestock. It doesn't go to people because livestock, that's why like there's ethical implications to eating like pig and cows because alone they produce a fuck ton of methane, fuck ton of carbon,
just
greenhouse
tooting,
gases,
by tooting and breathing
and then they need a fuck ton of water, and then you need a fuck ton of water to grow the plants, and you also need a lot of land, and you also need a lot of fertilizer because that's how they do that now, and that takes up so much space when we could be doing so much with that space for humans, but we do it for livestock, and then we kill the livestock. And then there's a whole other process that goes with it, obviously, to get it to your table looking like not a cow. But wait, how do we get on this topic?
Soil crisis. We started plowing. I think it was like 10 inches of the soil to turn it over each year. And back to the first topic that we're on, the mushrooms, okay? When the mushroom networks are in the ground, it naturally produces organic soil. It naturally fertilizes. It naturally gives the symbiotic relationship for these plants to find new nutrients, to strive to the best and the fullest that it can. And we have totally, like, digging down 10 inches, plowing.
Ruins all those networks.
Fucks all those networks up.
Yeah.
Like, it's horrible.
And they're, like, not, like, they're planting corn on corn on corn on corn. Okay, well, you need to switch that fucking up. You need to plant something else other than corn because the corn is taking all the nutrients and you're planting more corn, which needs the same nutrients that the corn previously already took. So now you have to supplement it with fake nutrients, and then the vicious cycle continues.
It continues. And the first thing that the Christopher Columbus story told that the natives taught us when we came over was feeding the soil by giving it, nutrients again, which they put like dead fish underneath the corn crops, right? And also crop rotation. Those are the two things.
Yep.
And we didn't even listen to that.
Nope. That's why. Have you seen Love, Death, Robots, the episode about the yogurt?
I don't think I have. No.
Oh, you should listen or watch that because it's funny. I won't spoil it, but basically it's like this like yogurt like compound that like basically they become like really smart and stuff, and it's you should watch it. It's only like 6 minutes long. It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
What was it called again?
Love, Death, Robots. And the episode is called like When Yogurt Took Over or something.
Okay.
But yeah, like what does that say about humans just naturally deviating from any plan and just like doing what they think is best?
Yeah. Listening to that ego.
Yeah. But yeah, microplastics are fucking us up among agricultural runoff also just like destroying the river ecosystems and the like wetlands and like everything else is just like there's so many chemicals that cause algae blooms, suffocates everything under the surface of the water, no sunlight in the water because the algae just blooming. Yeah, it causes a lot of environmental problems, and it's interesting to see how environmental problems conjunct with like social justice problems, they're very closely connected. It's so interesting, like environmental health, just like to see who is like who like has to deal with these problems is interesting, and like how they conveniently like intertwine.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary about it too, because it's like the people that are making the decisions aren't affected by it, so they don't understand the severity. Yeah. And so they're not like acting with the correct amount of force or vigor. And then we get unsatisfactory solutions that just don't do anything or don't do anything well. But yeah,
I'm curious like what the difference in the food is that like the multimillionaires, the billionaires are getting fed compared to us. Like, yeah, I'm super curious, and I mean, it might be a conspiracy, but at the same time, like,
I mean,
if they have the money and they have the land and they have all this, like the connections, like, where they get pure food.
I mean, yeah, like almost all Americans are like magnesium deficient, because they
and iron deficient and vitamin C deficient.
Yeah. And we basically just like, and like half of the shit that we eat is like wheat and corn. Like the burgers at McDonald's, that's what they're fucking made out of, and some chemicals.
I haven't had a McDonald's burger in at least a decade.
I had some nuggets the other week.
Oof.
I caved. But yeah, the food, it's
sad.
And like, we have access to food, right? But like, so many people don't have access to, like, we have access to a grocery store, like with fresh food. There's so many food deserts out there. Like in America and in the world, like people don't have access to fresh food. They have access to boxed food, canned food, and like bad food, basically, like health wise.
Even in America, we see that, like, people are eating all this junk food, and then it's blocking these natural systems that occur in our bodies to, you know, create dopamine, create natural endorphins that promote good things in our body, but it's shutting those pathways off.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're spiritually awakening, I say with quotations, just one of the things you have to do is you have to purify your eating habits. You have to go vegetarian, basically, because the stuff that is in the meat just
it's
creates,
not, yeah.
It blocks the pathways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, how, like, ethical things play a role into, like, a spiritual journey or pathway, if that does at all.
Like, if the cows are suffering when they're being killed, like,
Yeah.
maybe that could affect.
Yeah, and then you're complicit in that. And then, like, I wonder if that would, like, block it indirectly.
That's a good question.
Because there is really no, like, true ethical way to, like, unless, I don't know, actually.
Just hunting and gathering.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you do it, the natural, like, going back to the sustainable practices, like, if you're doing that sustainably, like, okay, but we're not doing it sustainably when we buy it from the grocery store.
No, not at all. That disconnection. We're just so used to having that food on our plate.
Yeah.
Just having it.
It definitely plays into, like, we're not eating the same things as Elon Musk.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
I don't know what Elon Musk would eat, though.
I don't know. I feel like he's a
Fucking
noodles
weird
guy.
shit. What? Noodles?
Yeah, I bet he likes noodles.
Really?
Probably,
like, spaghetti.
Bee pollination station. So, the whole concept of it is for a safe place for bees to go. Okay. And Paul Stamets, the guy that I mentioned in the beginning, world-renowned mycologist, he discovered that there's this mushroom. I believe it is the agaricu mushroom, but basically it strengthens the bee's immune system. And one of the things that kills the bees is this varroa mite, and it'll go into the hive and it'll push the bees out, and basically all the bees will then decolonize and try to find a new hive, which then they have to restart, and other bees get left behind because they can't make it out, or they die. So that's a huge issue. And with this one, I want to make it totally like recycled materials. Like these things here are the barrel, the wire wheels. I don't remember what they're called exactly, but you stack those up and you put the flower beds on there. Right?
Oh.
Yeah. So then you have that, and then on top of the soil would be like mulch, because these the mushrooms that grow are they grow on trees, or they grow on dead trees, or the bark. So
you have to imitate that.
You have to imitate that, and then when the bees go to pollinate, the mushroom source is also right there. So then they go to the mushroom, they suck the mycelium, put in their system, and it's like almost like a vaccination for them
Against the mites.
And then they don't decolonize, they don't get taken over by that, and essentially we save the bees.
That's so cool. So then they create their hives like on the beam parts?
They could, or they wouldn't even have to do that. They could have a hive somewhere completely separate. This is just like a little stop and just a little safe spot for them to go.
I like that. That's really cool.
It is.
Bees are so important.
They are.
They're like really fucking important. Like we wouldn't be alive without bees.
Yeah. Back to the soil crisis.
Yeah.
Bees naturally pollinate, obviously, all the plants that farmers are growing. And in China, they actually started hand pollinating plants because they didn't have enough bees.
No way.
Yeah. They would go there with a paintbrush and put a little bit of pollen inside the flowers.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I don't know the statistics exactly, but I believe it is in the 70th percentile that wild bees pollinate the agriculture in the United States.
Yeah.
So that's a huge percentage, but those bees are slowly dying off, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's scary.
It's very scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have enough people. We kind of do have enough people to hand pollinate, but we're not going to do that.
No, it's not very efficient.
Mm-mm.
And why would we do that when we have these natural little guys who
do that,
who help us
and help everything else?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just the last stop, but like everything else has helped along the way.
Yeah, we're the intrusive species.
We are.
We are.
We're the invasives.
The invasives.
Fuck.
You posted on your story when you went to a museum a couple weeks ago that was about the environment. It was like, we all have this role, right?
Which was it? Was it like that quote, like a painting?
Yeah. It was like, we have one purpose in this life, and that's to protect the planet that gives us life. Something like that.
Every human being has an obligation to contribute somehow to this world.
There you go.
By Edith Carter. It was at the Holocaust and Humanity Center.
In Cincinnati?
Oh. Yeah, that was a really cool museum. But, yeah, that's kind of what we literally, that's what we do have thing. We're animals, and, like, the whole point of each, like, species' existence is, like, to help the next generation of that species to thrive.
To live, to learn, to evolve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
It seems like you got a lot of it figured out, too.
A good amount.
Maybe you can meet some people.
Yeah.
Give you some money to make that.
Get the funding.
Little prototype or something.
Yeah. That's another thing. Like, the ethicality behind, like, nonprofits nowadays. Like, especially since the BLM finally came to light. Like, how many people, like, almost second guess themselves when donating to charities and donating to these nonprofits?
Yeah.
Like,
greed has ruined it.
It has. It puts a bad light into
something that's meant to help.
Organizations that are actually trying to help.
Yeah.
But then you have like these bad ones that make it seem like
ruin the stereotype for all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you could get like a person to fund it. I'm sure. Like you could like do something with that if you have like all this shit figured out, like measurements and stuff when you're on your trip, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
But.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd have like a whole like water recycling system.
Oh shit.
Down here, so like there'd be like a drain off to the left or right, and then it can collect rainwater and then feed it up back through.
It'd be cool if you could put an aquarium at the bottom, and then like it'd be like a recycling.
Whoa.
Because then the plants would feed off like the fish, what the fish discrete, and then the fish would feed off the plants.
Well, that'd be really cool.
I don't know. Maybe like a deluxe version or something.
Deluxe, yeah. And,
second edition.
That'd be awesome.
When did you like start to get like into like that environmental stuff?
Probably after senior year of high school. Probably like after COVID, because COVID like started raising all the questions for me for real.
Yeah.
I was so pissed off that my baseball season got canceled. I was pissed off that just the way that society was
Reacting,
and the stuff that we did to not prevent COVID in a way, you know, like the systems that were in place there, the stuff that happened during that summer with the George Floyd.
Yeah.
Everything just
Collapsed.
It collapsed and my entire world shook, and I just started asking myself questions like,
like why?
Why?
Like why we do shit like this?
Yeah. Like seek the truth. That's my big thing. Like seek the truth.
Yeah.
Find your truths and ground yourself that way. But yeah, I mean, we used to butt heads all the time in high school just because we had different perspectives, which I was conditioned into those perspectives. I didn't truly understand why I was saying them. I was just, that's what I was told.
Same a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It sucks though when you like don't know everything and then you're asked that one question and it's like, fuck, I don't know. Like I can't back this up. And then it makes you just think about it in a different way.
Think about it, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if my perspectives, I think like I hold the same like values and like the same ideas, but I think that like what I blame is different. Like what I think the big problems are different than what I did then. And I also think that I'm trying to like move to that minimization scale on that like cultural competence. So working is to not blame people for what they say or what they think or like judge them, because like that's just their lived experience. Like their lived experience has taught them that. So like learning to not like crucify people based on something that I might not agree with, just being less intense about it. And then like when you're talking to people, just like knowing that you're not going to convince anyone of anything and that it's not a debate. It should be a conversation, because debates are never helpful or productive. Like you end up walking away pissed off, not like with like knowledge that you didn't have before.
Definitely. You're more fixated on your side than actually listening to the other side and trying to find the balance. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it also comes with like age a little bit, like maturity a little bit from high school. It's just like so like we're in bubbles and like this is what I think and I know a lot. And as you start to know more, you realize that you don't know as much as you thought you knew.
Definitely. One of the things, like during that COVID, I went to your house one day because we were having like a little get together, and I don't know if you noticed in your neighborhood, there's that deaf child area sign, right? And that's like something that I grounded myself to, because it's honestly like a double entendre. So like obviously there's deaf children, and it's so sad. But then there's also these deaf children who are only told things, and then that's like the only truth that they know, and that's like the only perspective that they have. So they're truly
Why?
deaf. Why? Because their parents condition them this way, or society conditioned them this way. And like it's tough when you're 12, 13 to ask those questions, and it's tough to break out of like the way that you are.
That's interesting that you say that, but how does that relate to their deafness?
Because they're deaf to everything that's actually happening around them, and like the truth of life. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
I think that you have 5 senses, and if you don't have one of those senses, like your other senses are going to be like you're relying on those other senses. So it's not like they don't have sight. Like they can read, they can write, they can speak. Some of them can speak, but there's other ways of communicating and gaining information that don't have to deal with hearing it. And so I don't necessarily think that their freedom or path to asking questions and finding their own truths like is necessarily hindered in an immense way. It's definitely, I mean, I'm sure that it's harder, but I don't think that it's like debilitating in that way.
I'm talking more in like a metaphoric sense of children being deaf to what the actual real world is like. Not like deaf children themselves, but like me as a child, I was ignorant to what was actually
Oh
happening
shit!
in
I
the
thought you were
world.
talking about deaf children.
No.
Oh, I was
just-
like, damn.
Just
that's a
like
little-
seeing that sign, like just in my mind, I was like, that's a play on words. In a
Oh
way.
yeah, because all children are necessarily deaf, because they're only.
Fed information that their parents have or that they're taught in school.
Yeah.
So then that got me into music. So my producer
That's
tag
cool.
is Deaf Child Area, DCA.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's sick.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah,
So,
I never knew what that stood for.
Yep. Deaf Child Area.
I like it. I like the meaning behind that.
Thanks.
Did it start from that sign? Did it really?
That sign, yeah.
That's so funny.
It is. It is.
Introspective.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and just the. Oh, sorry.
My friend.
The friend group that we had, like throughout high school, like obviously played a huge impact on the way that I grew up, and
Yeah.
it was a blessing.
Our friend group was nice.
It was
It had some issues, but it was cool.
definitely, and I liked how we all had like different perspectives, but yet we still got along really well, and like we still enjoyed like the present moment.
Yeah, I agree. And it was kind of nice because, like, there was so many of us that, like, you got so many, like, different vibes, so many.
Different personalities.
Yeah, so many different personalities.
Mhm.
Kind of fell apart there at the end, though.
Yeah, it did.
That was tough.
Took a tumble.
Yeah. But, you know, that's okay. I still see Megan sometimes.
Yeah, me too. I saw her last week
Oh, really?
at a Christmas party. Yeah,
Nice.
that was cool.
Yeah. I see Jack, but don't really see anyone else. I don't see anyone else actually anymore. But that's crazy.
It is. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we did this. and
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course.
It's cool.
Yeah. Definitely have to keep working together and keep our communication lines on.
Hell yeah, I want to get updates on this bee. What's it called?
Call it a bee sanctuary.
Bee sanctuary.
Colonization.
You should something about immunity.
Immunity. The bee vaccine.
Yeah. Actually, don't say that.
Don't pass it.